Moshe Rabbeinu is dumbfounded again. The very same people he puts in charge cause all the problems. When was the last time? Last week. Last week's parasha, if you remember, Am Yisrael was complaining about the man, the food that had any flavor you want. They said they wanted chicken too. But you have food, you can make it chicken if you want. No, but we want chicken itself. But you have food, you can make it steak also. But we want chicken and steak. But you have food, you can make it ice cream. But we want that specifically. They wanted to just complain. Things were too easy. They wanted to complain. So, what does Hashem do? He punishes all the leaders. If you remember in last week's parasha, in chapter 11, verse 1, it says, ויעם כי מתאוננים רע באזני אדוני, וישמע אדוני, ויחר אפו ותבער בם אש. ותבער בם אש אדוני ותאכל בקצה המחנה. The people took to seeking complaints, started complaining, these people, and it was evil in the ears of Hashem. And Hashem heard, and his wrath flared, and the fire of Hashem burned against them, and it consumed at the edge of the camp. So Chazal says, what does it mean? It consumed the edge of the camp. Why didn't it just consume one of the camps? Why didn't it consume Tzvika, Shmuli, David, and all the guys are saying, complaining? He says, no. It consumed the edge of the camp, meaning all the leaders. They were all on the edge of the camp. The fire consumed all of them, not the rest of the nation. Why not the rest of the nation? Because when the leaders heard the people complain, the only purpose for them being leaders is to rebuke the people. You hear them complaining, what are you complaining? Who are you complaining? You complaining against your wife, it's one thing. Complaining against Hashem? Complaining against your kids, it's one thing. Complaining against Hashem? Complaining against your husband, it's one thing. Complaining against your boss, it's one thing. Complaining against Hashem? The same one that gave you the air you breathe, the same one that's giving you eyes to see, the same one that gave you a tongue to speak, you're using the tongue. They complain against him. The same one that's giving you parnasah, you're complaining he's not giving you enough, so you could buy a brand new car. The same one that gave you refuah shlema, you're complaining about him for anything that you're complaining. Do you know who you're complaining against? On them it's written, Am naval velo chacham. Foolish people, not smart. Why not smart? They used the tools that Hashem gave them against him. This is a maaseh, not just Satan. This is also a day-to-day thing of Erev Rav. Erev Rav, it's not just making mistakes all of us make. We all take Hashem's name for granted, his chesed that he gives us for granted. None of us appreciate him enough. But the Erev Rav, that's mentioned in this parasha, that's mentioned in this Mishnah, that's mentioned by Rabbi Nachman Mibreslev, that's mentioned by the Baal Shem Tov, that's mentioned by Vilna Gaon, it's mentioned in over 1,700 sources. And we only touched maybe, 24 in the last 2 weeks. The Erev Rav, that's not their problem. What's their problem? They're not just naval velo chacham. They're not just making complaints. They're using the Torah to make complaints. They're the types that write articles that says, no, this thing about homosexuality, no, there's no way that Hashem really meant it. That would really be mean. If Hashem said that it's not allowed to be homosexual, that would be mean to the homosexual people. How come they don't say it about kleptomaniacs? It's really mean that you don't let people light your house on fire. Pyromaniacs. Or kleptomaniacs steal. It's really mean that you don't let them steal your whole house. The Rambam called those people Naval Birshut Torah. they take the Torah and they twist it and squeeze it and do whatever they need in order to make etel, in order to make leniencies that are not really leniencies. They go against the Torah by using the Torah. So when we said the Chidush from Yaakov Avinu last week, Rabbi Ephraim expanded on it. When Yaakov Avinu said that in the end of days, told his son certain things that are going to happen. We talked about it a month ago or so ago, but there's a prophecy about missionaries. Last week we talked about the prophecy from Yitzchak Avinu, where he says, Akol kol Yaakov, vayadayim yedei Esav. The voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esav. Ephraim expanded on a chidush. He says, another way that you can see that this is actually specifically talking about, or at least a remez, at least a hint, towards the Erev Rav, is that not only do they sound like Yaakov, but the actions of Esav, but it even tells you how they sound. Because the literal verse says, the voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands of Esav. So the word voice is twice. Akol, kol. But the way it's spelled in the Torah is that there's one letter missing in one of them. One is spelled with kuf lamed, one is spelled with kuf vav lamed. Same word, but spelled two different ways right next to each other. Why? Because he says the hakol can also be said hekel. Makil is making leniencies. Lenience and lenience and lenience and more lenience and more leniences. Eventually, you give a dog a bar mitzvah. With tefillin. So Rabbeinu Yonah says that if someone commits himself wholeheartedly to the ways of the Torah, he receives a merit for what is revealed to him, as well as for what's still unknown to him. As did Israel in Mount Sinai, when they declared, we will do and we will hear. This is in Sharei Teshuva, chapter 2, paragraph 10, or section 10.
To buy opportunity. The bottom line is that these two companies have a huge opportunity. There are only two companies in an entire sector. My story doesn't start with religion. My story doesn't start with the truth. My story starts with Alma de Shikra, the world of lies. God gave, God took, may his name be blessed.